Hey guys, hope everybody is doing well. Coming at you here with an update. As you all know, it's been a couple of weeks since the whole world for realtors has changed. We are now in the post-NAR settlement era. The good news is I don't see any realtors jumping off of buildings or going crazy over this. Okay, there is more paperwork, there's more processes to go through. And I'm going to give you a step-by-step of a couple of things that need to happen in order to remain compliant. Okay. First of all, couple of things. This mandatory written agreements are now in place, so you have to have. We're going to talk specifically about the buyer side of the equation. When representing a buyer, you have to have a BBA agreement in place, a buyer brokerage agreement. Okay. You're not allowed to show properties if your buyer has not signed this for you. Having said that, the boards have already expressed that they won't be checking unless there's complaints. And if there's complaints, probably one of the first things they're going to ask for is the buyer brokerage agreement. And if you don't have one executed with your buyer, there could be hefty fines. Okay, and more sanctions. So we don't want to get into that. I, for one, this is the way that I'm doing it, and I'm going to share a sample on the chat. I'm having my buyers sign a buyer brokerage agreement saying that they'll pay my 3% commission. Now, on page 3 of the buyer broker agreement, there's a section called Other Terms, and I've added this language. This is where I can kind of customize it for my own. If broker is unable to secure compensation from seller or seller's broker, buyer will not be obligated to compensate broker. So basically what this says is that if I'm not able to secure compensation from from a broker or a seller, that my client's not necessarily obligated. Now, that would be a bad situation for me because I would be basically working for free. But that's a risk I'm willing to take because I have some clients that would be interested in that I be compensated. Okay, the clients that don't want to compensate me, I may not want to be working with them. So anyway, for now, this is less disruptive. And while the entire universe of buyers gets more used to the idea that they may have to in the future pay for representation, this is a way that I'm going to be doing it. Okay, so step number one. Step one, have your buyer sign a buyer brokerage agreement. Copy is in the Form Simplicity, and I put a sample on this chat group. Step number 2, showing request. We've done that. That doesn't change. And find out if the listing agent or listing broker or seller is offering compensation or commission to the buyer's broker. That's the time to find that out. So we're not going to find it on the MLS. We're not going to find it on showing time. And by the way, if you have listings, don't put any references to compensation on MLS or on showing time. You can put compensation offers on your own websites as long as they don't have links to the MLS. You can put a sign up saying offering 3% on this property. You can put a sign in the kitchen of your listings. That's what I'm going to do on my vacant listings. I'm going to put a little tent sign there showing that, saying that I'm offering this to cooperating buyer brokers. So once you show the property, if there is interest in your client making an offer, this is what you would do as step number 3. Okay, send in a compensation agreement. Okay, Compensation agreement looks kind of like this. It's just 2 pages, pretty easy to fill out. And I have put a sample in the chat group, okay? So basically, what I would do at that point, now that I know my client's interested in this house, is I would fill out a compensation agreement, send it to the listing agent, signed. And by the way, you can sign it. I don't have to sign it. You are an extension of the brokerage. So you can sign as a buyer broker, you can sign even though you're not a broker. It's okay. And it's binding. The same with the listing agent. And by the way, this brings on a new era of responsiveness, okay? We've all been out there. There's realtors that don't answer their phone. They don't answer their text message. Well, guess what? Those realtors are not going to be in business too long. You have to be more responsive now more than ever. Because if somebody calls you and say, hey, I showed your listing, I'm working on an offer, let me send you the compensation agreement. And by the way, the compensation agreement has to be sent first. Do not make the mistake of sending it with the offer. Why? Because you want to lock in your compensation agreement first. You don't want the commission to come into play in the negotiation of the price of the house. That's the idea of this whole thing, okay? Commissions are separate from the price and the negotiation of the house. So it's actually a good thing. Actually, it could be a carrot that you could dangle and say, Mr. Listing Agent or Mrs. Listing Agent, I have a client that's very interested in making an offer. Let me send you the compensation agreement first so we can get that out of the way, and then I'll send you the offer. You think that agent will sign that compensation agreement and send it back to you pretty quick? I think so, especially if they know there's an offer coming. But if you send it with the offer, what's the incentive there? Now they can see both things. They're going to say, oh, he wants 3%. This offer is kind of low. So we don't want to get into that. Step number 4, send the offer. This hasn't changed. Okay. So those are the 4 easy steps. I'll go over them one more time, and I'm going to list them after this video. Step number 1, buyer-broker agreement. Step number 2, when you do your showing request, make sure you find out if there's a commission being paid. Step number 3, send the compensation agreement. And step number 4, send the offer. Hopefully get it executed and close the deal and make some money. Thank you very much. Call me if you have any questions, and I'll be talking on my next video about sellers.